The house is slab on grade, so that one is trickier because if you don't have a crawl space, you want to basically sleeve in, you want to make holes only once. To cut up on a concrete slab is way more expensive than to go into a crawl space. So that was definitely something trying to coordinate early, make sure everything's right with what they're getting under the slab, ready to put the toilets in, stuff like that. But again, that's not out of bounds, but it's certainly something that would have been, important. And as far as government agencies goes, it was really the county driving most of it. You have the wildland urban interface, the WUI, because of fire things, but this house is all hardy board and batten, and then a standing seam metal roof. So it meets all the details met, obviously flame resistance, flame spread. There's plenty of defensible space. This one tree that is close to the home is not, again, a liability for that purpose, right? Because of the defensible space around that. So it's very, very nicely done where I think because of these sort of like, you're not quite at the top of the largest hill, but you have this great panoptic view. But because of that kind of baldness up there, you're also able to keep that defensible space for CAL FIRE and all the things there. CAL FIRE, of course, is a secret driver of all projects that are out in the landscape because you have to do that defensible space and materials. But it was really the county was the main agent there. We did not need any approval of any non-government agencies. We didn't have any HOA issues with that. And then KGM was involved during the design process as a contractor, and they were there for just general updates. So they could just be aware of what was going on to keep their bid as up to date as possible. If we added a half bath or when we lop off the porch, those kind of things, they kept us abreast, but they were in discussion pretty comfortably. Like I said, it was closer to design build, but it was still, we were not working with KGM as like a sharing time. We were still working for Kerry Wood. Sorry, I mean, we were both working for Kerry Wood separately, is what I mean to say.
Wait, so because it was closer to a design build, but it wasn't, would it still qualify as a design bid build or?
Yes, yep. But I just mean to say, if you wanted to write that because of that, there was no bidding process because the contractor had such a strong relationship with the owner that they were just like, hey, keep them abreast, send them those sets in between. But it's not like the contractor told us to make the house smaller because it was over the budget, or there wasn't an agreed fee. The contractor still gave them a price per square foot until everything was baked in, and then they gave them an official number when they had the sort of permit submission set.
And then
and I apologize about construction costs in particular, but you can actually ask Andrew just over Slack. He can give you a good estimate. I know that KGM, because it was a while ago now, obviously, they would have given them a number per square foot. But I'm not saying money grows on trees, but I think the Wood residence was all about that residence, and they kind of had a design sort of scale in mind, and it was going to be what it was going to be. It was going to be that square footage. We weren't going to double the size or half the size, but it was not like they were going to nickel and dime, lop off 20 square foot here or 100 square foot here to keep this particular number. But KGM gave them, I'm sure, a very accurate estimate, and nothing majorly changed. It wasn't like, again, we found bad soil or we found a bust because we were missing a whole permit chunk of something that added cost everywhere else. It was all pretty straightforward from the sort of construction side.
Gotcha. So you talked about how from start to finish it was 18 months, but do you know how long the construction took?
We can check with Andrew, but I feel like construction was about 12. I apologize because I feel like it was in that 12 range, but I could be wrong. It could have been more, but I feel like it was a year of everything. But yeah, we only did, Andrew went once, I think once or twice at most. And I went once with Angelique. We did a framing walk. Angelique and I did. But that was just to kind of go see it. It wasn't really to inspect anything. Structural engineering did do a walk of framing and foundation stuff, but that was just their part of their general contract because they're going to look at the foundation piece, but it's not in our scope. And then we were called out, I think, we were talked over the phone a couple of times about that truss detail or a bathroom wall detail. That was it. It was very, very straightforward in that sense.
Did anything like were there any hiccups in the construction at all, or not really?
No, no, basically, like I said, other than that tree, when they started beginning the discussion of this, and lopping off the porch, that tree and its proximity to the home to deal with the porch, that was the only thing that came up. And again, could have been a big deal in the sense of like you lose part of a porch, but they saw it as a design opportunity. But everything else was pretty darn straightforward.
How are all your like consultants and contractors and stuff for the construction phase? Like, do you have anyone?
Yeah,
It sounds like everyone was on the same page and like working well together. But
yeah, structural engineer was so helpful. Ramon knows his stuff with sticks. He was actually I think he was off on his own back then. He's now with a different engineering firm, so that it's a little different when you're dealing with a more corporate scale entity versus like one-on-one. Like Michael Kalin in town has been an incredible resource because he can like walk you through questions. But yeah, contractor was super transparent, very engaging. One of the things that happened was on the roof plan there were 0 dimensions of the roof eaves. And so they just asked, like, where are your reeve dimensions? Like, whoops. Again, it wouldn't necessarily be a adversarial with another contractor, but it was great because we just made an exhibit that said it's meant to be 2 feet everywhere. You know, we actually have, and so they just wanted to know that scale, but somehow on the roof plan, either they got deleted or whatever it was, they were not in the piece. And that's nice to know how long the rafters go, right? Or those kind of tales. So that became a discussion about that.
um, so what was sorry? How did you view the process of design and production like within the office for this project? Like, do you think it went pretty smoothly? It sounds like it. And it sounds like from what you're talking about, it wasn't a problem with like if she had gone back and on her blessings with the schematic designs, like it would have been a problem, which has been a problem for other projects. So it sounds like that part of the procedure has been improved, but would you say there's anything else for internal procedures of the office that could be improved for this, that you learned from this project?
Awesome question. And I would say as we've grown, but also here I am talking to you at my dining room table, right, with a toddler around. I would say that I want to myself, if we're talking about just myself as the designer, be better about, you can't give every project all of your time all day. You need to split up your time, right? You have to be able to split up your time. And I am really good at one project at a time, right? I really feel comfortable with that. I feel very confident. The moment it starts to have some plates to spin, I need to be better about how to still give the clients the attention they deserve and keep things moving, as opposed to like, oh, I'll get to that and get that perfect, whatever that means, whatever perfect means. Like I'll set aside time. And I think that comes down to my relationship with you, like you and I as team members, and how do you feel empowered? But also like, okay, so I've been working, let's just say I graduated graduate school in 04. Let's just use that one. So 17 years. So with this project would have been 14 years later. What's the purpose? Like, what am I drawing it for? I'm drawing it to draw this farmhouse, right? It was really exciting. You're taking advantage of the long roofs to protect from the sun. Nothing's getting baked. It's hitting all low-tech sustainable strategies. You've got the attic that can vent heat, but it can also be insulated so the roof reflects the light. So you're not getting baked in there. And the attic itself isn't sending the hot attic problem because you're venting it out. So the house is breathing. So even in those hot Templeton summer days, you've got this big umbrella over you, right? So you're doing better already just by that. And that was great because it's not really contemporary because it's a farmhouse aesthetic, but you're realizing, duh, that's why farmhouses work. That's why that typology exists. So working with that was really interesting. But I would say, again, coming the other way of, this is one residence of, let's say right now we've got 14 going in some scale, right? I can't draw all 14. But it'd be a shame if I can't talk to you about something I learned here when you're drawing yours